Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our third webinar in our business support webinar series in collaboration with Nordens. This webinar is going to be on mindset. Before we get going, I just wanted to remind people of who's doing the presentation today. So just a few introductions. So I'm Greg Guilford. I'm the CEO of HR Solutions, and we've got Joe Sword, who's the head of strategic business planning at Nordens, who's going to be our main presenter today. We also have attain, our digital marketing exec, who is in the background and we're able to support with any technical questions that come through. Due to the number of people on the webinar, everyone is on mute today, but we do want to encourage as many questions as possible. So I'm just going to show you quickly how to do that. You should have a GoToWebinar chat panel that looks something like the image on the screen. There's a questions tab in there that you can simply expand and type the questions in that you want to ask. They're all private and confidential. We'll ask the questions to Joe at the end on your behalf when we'll use no names. So please feel free to ask as many questions as possible. Throughout the session, we'll also be running a couple of polls just to sort of get your feeling on some of the questions that Joe's talking about as well. This is an interactive session, so please do have your notebooks ready and make notes as we go along. And if you do want to ask those questions at the end to find out a bit more, then please do. So as I mentioned, this webinar is on mindset, and I'm now going to pass you over to Joe, who's going to run the rest of the session.
Cheers, Greg. Thank you. So yeah, as Greg mentioned, my name is Joe Sword. I'm the Strategic Consultancy Director at Nordens. And we've worked with thousands of business owners over the years, and it's because of this we feel that we have the ability to support and help many of you move your business to the next level. And we want to make our consultancy and advisory offering available to as many people as possible. So throughout lockdown, we created our bi-weekly online interactive accelerator advisory program, which is based on our Wheel of Success. And on the wheel, there are 7 segments, and our webinar series will be focusing on each one of these in turn. And we strongly believe that success in these 7 areas will lead to overall business success. And on the flip side, when you look at a business that's struggling, or potentially your business isn't doing as well as it could be, it's generally attributed to one or more of these areas. So the 7 areas we're going to look at are your why, vision and goals, your sales and marketing, which we've covered over the last 2 weeks. Today, we're going to look at mindset. We're also looking at cash flow, systems and processes, profitability, and team and culture. We feel that our program that we've developed helps with some of the biggest headaches business owners face, namely advice, direction, different perspectives, and accountability. And based on this, the program will give you that bespoke advice from our team of consultants and special guests, access to a group of like-minded business owners from a variety of different sectors to give you those different thoughts and perspectives, and also enhancing your support network at the same time. And over the years, we've realised that having someone offer their thoughts or perspectives from an impartial and unemotional point of view is one of the most underrated success factors. And finally, there'll be that team of people to hold you accountable, and that's proven to help you get results quicker. With a strong focus on goals and actions, we ensure that you don't just build momentum, but you maintain it. And these are ingredients we've found are key elements for success, and we have a growing number of case studies from businesses and their owners who are thriving because of the program. And it's proven that by working with others in a group setting like this can actually increase your success rate by up to 200%. So that gives you a bit of an insight into the program which the webinar is based upon today. And now we'll go into sort of today's session, which will be all focusing around one of my favorite topics, mindset. Such a wide-ranging topic. We probably won't cover every element of it today. It's very unlikely we'd be able to, but we will hopefully touch on some key areas that can hopefully help you. And while today it's not going to be completely replicating the interactiveness of our full program, we're going to try and create that element of it, like Greg mentioned, by using the polling system on the webinar, where you'll be able to get a chance to share your thoughts. So what the aim will be is I'll aim to outline the area, give a few thoughts from my perspective, and then there'll be some polls with questions for you to answer. The answers will be anonymous, but it will allow us to gauge where the majority of you are positioned on each area. And of course, as we go through, if you have any problems or questions, just pop a message in the chat box like Greg mentioned, or give us a signal and we'll do our best to help. So on to today's topic then, mindset. One of my favourite topics. It's huge. And how important is it to being successful? Well, personally, I believe success in all centered around the ability to use your mind in the right way. And we believe mindset is possibly the most underrated aspect of business success. I read a quote quite recently that said, if you truly knew how powerful your mind is, you would never think a negative thought again. And while practically it would be difficult to switch off from negative thinking completely, there is a lot of truth in letting negative thoughts overpower you and how detrimental it just can be to your success. So what I'd like to start doing is think of a time when you've been really frustrated, wound up, or just generally unhappy or irritated, and someone innocently approached you and asked you to make a decision on something. What would your initial reaction be? And now compare that to a situation where you feel on top of the world, you've just clinched a big contract, picked up a new client, new customer, or have hit a personal or business milestone. Someone again innocently approaches you and asks you the same question. How would your approach differ? And chances are you'd be experiencing vastly different types of emotion under each scenario, and your decision making could be affected accordingly. Now, a key strength of most successful business owners, not just we've worked with, but overall, is not to remove emotion. 90% of human decisions are based on emotion, but they channel their emotion in the right way as much of the time as possible. And they also apply most of their energies to solutions as opposed to the problem. Now, we accept it's not perfect science. We are human beings and we will get it wrong on occasion. But having a strong mindset allows you to take setbacks in your strides, learn from them, and continue to move forward without harming your future. So while you may not be able to control all of your thoughts all of the time, you can determine and control how you react to those thoughts. Now, when emotions are running high, how many times have you heard the phrase, don't take it personally? It's frustrating, isn't it? And it adds to the emotion and tension and actually makes it worse a lot of the time, right? And one thing I'd recommend from now on is to eliminate don't take it personally from your own vocabulary. You want people to take things personally within reason. It shows they care and the topic that you're discussing or the conversation you're actually having actually means something to them. So you want it to be personal to them. What you actually want is a positive reaction to your comment and for the other person to understand it for the purpose it was meant, whether that's a different perspective, an opportunity for development, or whatever it is. So emotions are a really good source of power in business when funneled and filtered in the right way. The key is to use emotion for good and not bad as often as possible. So in my opinion, avoid using the phrase, don't take it personally, and actually appreciate the fact that people in and around your organisation care enough that they're making the conversations personal to them. And one of the ways I've found that's helped me avoid knee-jerk emotional responses where I'm feeling worked up or upset about something is to actually write down my initial emotional response and just leave it there for a while, and then go and do something else and come back to it. Because I've realised at times I've been emotional in my responses and it wasn't necessary, it wasn't the right way to react, and I've regretted it. So it's a case of just writing down what your initial thoughts are, maybe just leaving it there and then coming back to it. And if you still feel the same, go for it. But if you may come back more likely than not with a clearer mind and a bit more measured and considered response to whatever's bugging you at the time. Now, what I'd like to touch on now is around the work that a woman called Carol Dweck, an American psychologist, has carried out. She's done a significant level of research on the psychology of the mind and how it leads to success. And the very brief and simple summary of the amazing work that she's done is that to be successful in business, or in general for that matter, you need to operate with what's called a growth mindset. Having the opposite, a fixed mindset, will not serve you, and you're doomed to stagnate and fail when you're looking at things consistently in this way. So what is a fixed mindset? What is a growth mindset? And how can we develop ourselves and transition from one to the other? So I think the first thing to appreciate is that in order to change your mindset, you have to accept and take ownership that you need to make a change. If you're not willing to make a change, you're going to get the same results, which will mean you and your business will not develop. So Carol Dweck summarized the key factors of a growth mindset as intelligence. So people with a fixed mindset believe that intelligence is static and unable to be developed, whereas people who exhibit a growth mindset are confident intelligence can be developed. It sounds obvious, but the amount of times you hear things like, oh, it's because he was born clever, and comments along those lines, by saying things like that, you're actually training your mind to believe that you're effectively admitting defeat. So we'd like to open up a poll on this, and we're going to follow the 6 principles in a similar sort of format. So I'd just like to gauge everyone's thoughts on the statement, people are born with a set level of intelligence or talent and it cannot be changed. So just be totally honest about how you would initially react to that particular question or that particular statement. Do you strongly agree with it? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? Or do you strongly disagree with it? The bottom one is supposed to say strongly disagree, I believe, but they're the four options. If you can choose one of those, and again, just be honest, and it'll be great to see how everyone is positioned in the response to that statement.
Sorry, that was my typo. So yeah, the bottom one should be strongly disagree.
Yeah.
So 95% of people have already completed it, Joe. So I'm just going to close and share that result.
Fantastic. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, people who have a growth mindset are likely to strongly disagree. So the bottom one, so nearly 40% of you have said that. Disagree, nearly the rest of you have said that. And there's a couple of people, I believe 6% have said agree. So I think the people that are agreeing with that are kind of coming back to what we were saying and are potentially stuck in a bit of a fixed mindset. Not a complete fixed mindset, because no one said strongly agree, which is good, but people that are agreeing with that, you're kind of potentially limiting your own progression by believing in that, because reality is intelligence and talent can be developed and people with a growth mindset would appreciate that. So that's interesting to know. Predominantly everyone's on that particular part, a growth mindset focus, which is good. So let's look at the next area, which is challenges. So people with a fixed mindset look to avoid challenges at all costs, whereas people with a growth mindset would actually embrace challenges. And I suppose this is where comments like, oh, they have it easy, come into play. Every person in the world has challenges, whatever they are, and by embracing them, you build up confidence and resilience. By avoiding them, you effectively avoid your own progression. So again, another quick poll on around challenges. And the statement is, or the question is, I generally try to avoid challenges. How would you honestly respond to that? Do you avoid challenges? Do you actively embrace challenges? Or are you a bit, yeah, sometimes I do, but it sort of depends on my mood. So just be honest and pop on what you believe to be a true reflection of where you currently are at the minute.
Okay, about 80% so far. So just
Cool.
give it a few more seconds. Okay, I'm going to close the poll and share the results.
Okay. Well, it's good again that no one has strongly agreed, which is great to see that people, even if they do avoid some challenges, you don't avoid all challenges. So it'd be interesting to drill down a little bit and maybe ask yourself why those 20% of you that have said agree try to avoid challenges. What is it about the challenge that puts you off sort of taking it on, grabbing the ball by the horn, so to speak? And the people that have said disagree, there's a vast majority of you there. That's good, but it maybe indicates that you potentially there are times where you would look to avoid a challenge. But again, strongly disagree, they're representative of a growth mindset, which is good. So the 20% of you that say agree, it would be interesting to get a better gauge on why you feel the need to avoid a challenge. What is it about the challenge that potentially puts you off embracing it? So again, that's interesting to know. It's a good thing that no one's operating with a completely fixed mindset on that area too, with none of you are saying strongly agree, so that's good. We'll move straight on to the next poll, which is around obstacles. So the next poll is around, it's quite similar to challenges, but when faced with an obstacle, you embrace this or continue to persist. So people with a fixed mindset will generally give up when there's an obstacle in their way, whereas those with a growth mindset persist, and they do this by embracing the process and focusing on the solution, or even the reward the solution will bring. it's just too easy to give up and quit. And that's why those who are able to persevere can become ultra successful, as they will do things that others won't to enable them to achieve things that others will never do. So you do really need to see obstacles as a necessary separator of success over mediocrity. So let's have a little look at how you would feel, or how you would genuinely answer the statement, when faced with an obstacle, I embrace this and continue to persist. Is this generally how you tackle it? Okay, again, no one said strongly disagree, which is great. A few of you have said disagree, so it'd be interesting to find out why you would not persist, why you would sort of quit, so to speak. And I mean, there are times and places where the right thing to do is actually stop, but it needs to be well thought through, and there has to be a reason and logic behind it. A lot of you have said agree, but only a few of you, or smaller percentage, 18% of you, have said strongly agree. So for those of you that have said agree, it would be about maybe looking at the times where you haven't embraced an obstacle and you haven't continued to persist, and why is that? What is your mind telling you at that point? So again, on the whole, the vast majority of you are on the right path to having the complete growth mindset, which is perfect, and that's exactly where you want to be in business. The next one is challenges and obstacles were quite similar, but the next one is different. It's about effort. So this is a big one, because a lot of the time people will not really give effort the fair due that it deserves. People will think, oh, you're born talented, this, that, and the other. You don't really have to put effort in. So the question for this poll is, the more effort that you put into something, the better you will be. Or do you just not need to put effort in? So people with a fixed mindset, they believe that effort is fruitless. And you'll often hear these type of people saying, what's the point, or something along those lines. Whereas people with a growth mindset appreciate that effort is the path to mastery. You get what you put in, and people who are fixed in their mindset often incorrectly believe that success just comes to people. They haven't had to work for it, as they only look at the result. They don't see the pain and the struggle that they've had to go through behind closed doors when no one is watching. And nobody achieves big success without any effort. That's a fact. So how do you answer that statement? The more effort you put into something, the better you will be. Do you all agree with that? Slightly disagree? That's good to see. So you either agree or disagree, and I think, yeah, if you want to be successful, I think everyone needs to appreciate the more effort you put into something, the better you will be. And I suppose it's about channeling your effort. Are you doing the right things? That's the big thing, because you can put a lot of effort into doing something that isn't really benefiting you or the business. And although you're putting a lot of effort in, you might not be getting the results you deserve. So understanding where to place your efforts is just as important. Now, the next one is another big one. It's around criticism. And this is something that I personally have found it quite difficult to tackle over the years. I used to take things overly emotional when I would get critiqued about my own performance. And so it'd be good to get your gauge on this particular question. I always appreciate feedback about my performance and never get angry about receiving feedback. A lot of this comes down to the way the feedback's delivered, but people with a fixed mindset, they just completely ignore criticism. They often make excuses and justify their actions no matter how ridiculous they sound. Nobody likes to get things wrong, and very few people do actually get things wrong on purpose. So criticism, especially when it's in regard to something you do really care about and passionate about, it is tough to accept. But the most successful people tune into their growth mindset, and instead of looking at the negative thoughts and emotion that criticism brings with it, they're able to appreciate just how valuable criticism is as a part of a learning and growing experience. And when we're talking about criticism in this context, we're talking about constructive criticism from those who are actually qualified to give it. We are not advising you to please everyone here, but the next time a customer or a team member or just anyone valuable to you gives you some constructive criticism, before instantly reacting, step back and appreciate what a great opportunity this is to see someone else's perspective. And plus the fact that they're actually felt comfortable enough to give you the criticism. And that could lead you to develop your product, could lead you to develop your service, could lead you to develop a better relationship with that person. And they're all essential tools for success. So that's good. That's good to see a wide range there, because I do believe it's one of those ones where I know I've struggled with in the past. So it's good to see people being honest. And someone said, 7% of you have said, I strongly disagree. I never get angry when receiving feedback. And again, I think we need to put that into context about how the feedback is actually delivered, because some people will give, well, you can't even call it feedback. It's just a moan or a dig, and it just doesn't help you in any way. So I think it's important to know when you're getting criticism for the people that actually matter and are qualified to give the critique, but your customers for sure are. So it's good that 20% of you strongly agree, and you're in that strong growth mindset area where you really take feedback and critique in a good way. 40% of you are getting there by the looks of it. So again, probably in a similar position to myself over the years, where I've probably been in that agree area, maybe even at disagree in my earlier years, where I wouldn't always appreciate feedback. I'd take it very personally and not realise that it was actually a great learning opportunity for me. So I think maybe challenge yourself to maybe look at that the next time you get some critique, those of you that have said agree or disagree, and especially those that have said strongly disagree, and just maybe look and say, like, how can I reframe this criticism as a learning experience or a learning opportunity? What can I get from this in a positive way, as opposed to just maybe focusing on the negatives? And those of you that are saying strongly agree, I think it's a case of keeping that up and also injecting that around your teams that you work with, because that's important. It's great that you do it, but are your teams taking things in the same way? And I think it's about expanding that to them and through them to show why it's so valuable to take critique in the right way as part of your own learning and development. And so, yeah, I think criticism is a really big one. And finally, success of others. This is another one that really separates those with a growth mindset from those with a fixed mindset. So the statement is, I feel inspired by the success of others. Do you feel inspired by the success of others, or do you feel threatened by the success of others? So people with a fixed mindset will often feel really threatened by success of others and looking at ways to downplay their achievements or making excuses as to why they were lucky, or they just had that different support that you didn't have. You weren't privileged enough to get that support. But successful people would adopt a growth mindset, and instead of being threatened, they'll actually use it as inspiration or fuel to push them on and better themselves. And this is how a lot of businesses continue to innovate. And it can become that game of cat and mouse, where a competitor will bring out a new product that's slightly better than their own, and then they'll go back to the drawing board, fueled up and fired up, ready to make something even better. And they use that as the new benchmark of their success and an inspiration to make the next product or service even better still. So how do you take successes of others? Okay, so it looks like not many people feel totally threatened by success of others. A few of you disagree. You don't feel inspired by the success of others, and I wonder why that is. It may be certain people that don't help inspire you, and there might be a reason for that. But I think generally, people with a growth mindset, the 23% of you and the 62% of you that are on your way there, feeling inspired by success of others, it's a really good motivator and a real good fuel for it. So that's really good. So most people on the webinar today are well in the growth mindset area, which is so essential. It's so important for business success. And what I would look at now is, just to finish with, the biggest part of the transition is about knowing and understanding yourself. And we appreciate how important mental health is more than ever. And if you haven't carried out what's called a DISC analysis before, I'd really strongly recommend it, as it was a real eye-opener to me. And it's not just about understanding yourself, but you're able to work with your team to do something similar and understand them a lot better. And I realised over the years that I would say things generically, my natural character, but it would have a real detrimental impact to others, and vice versa. And the more you can understand yourself and other people, the better you'll be able to work together, and the more success you're likely to have as a team. And another key element in transitioning your mind is appreciating what you're going to sacrifice to enable you to get what you want. And it's often easier to stop something than start something. So you can approach this by asking yourself, what are you not going to do? For example, you could be overly self-critical and really beat yourself up about things. And from now on, that's the first thing you're going to work on stopping. Or if you're not able to stop it completely straight away, perhaps reframing it. And when you're starting to beat yourself up about something, maybe say, look, I'm still learning, or it's a learning experience, or I've learned something new today. All of a sudden, it has a bit more of a positive ring to it. And a study carried out by Psychology Today concluded that it takes an average of 66 days for a behaviour to become automatic. So just over 2 months of regular, consistent practice to get your new habit so deeply ingrained you no longer have to give much thought to it. So if you are serious about developing yourself and your business and creating these positive habits, positive mental habits around what you're looking to do, is it going to challenge you? Definitely. Will it push you out of your comfort zone? For sure. Will you experience the feeling of wanting to give up? Probably. But if you persevere, you will create groundbreaking results. That's guaranteed. And it's the business owners who really take this seriously and rise to the challenges and push themselves in ways such as this. They're able to move out of mediocrity or even good and actually achieve greatness. Another thing that's worth mentioning is visualization, whether consciously or through actually displaying visual images or vehicles such as meditation or yoga. They're really valuable for the modern business owner, as it can quickly help relax your mind and bring you to a state where you can make your best decisions. One thing that's really served me well over the years is to really break things down into chunks, especially when starting a new habit or commitment, to start really small and reward yourself quickly, sort of like a pain sandwich. So either side of embracing a new challenge, there's something pleasurable, as this helps because the thought of the reward or the nice feeling or the nice task to do either side of it will encourage you to start and motivate you to continue. And we use our one-page plan as a tool to transition your mind and allow you to visualize where you want to be and what you want to create in your business. And our IAP program has been likened to a mind refresher and mind refocuser. And we've had so much feedback from our members about how vital the program has been in helping them develop and transition their mindset. That's been the resounding commonality between all the people on the program. It's really helped them reframe and refocus their mind. So if you're finding it difficult, we would emphasize to seek some form of internal help, whether that's friends, family, a business coach or specialist like ourselves. But the benefits of creating that support network cannot be underemphasized. You don't have to go it alone. You don't have to take all the burden on yourselves. So the final poll for today is all around what you use as your go-to to relax your mind. We've talked about having a strong mindset, and part of that is knowing what you can do to give it a chance to relax and recharge. It's very important now more than ever in this fast-paced world. So it's vital that you're looking after your mind just like you would your body. So let's open up this poll. And I think it's important that there's no right or wrong answer, but there should be something you have as a go-to that will help you relax and unwind and refresh, because it's so important. So let's have a look at the options that we've got on this poll. So something like meditation or yoga, maybe some form of exercise like a walk, a run, or go to the gym. Listening to music is quite a common one, or something completely different. Or do you honestly don't really put a lot of attention or focus on actually relaxing your mind? So it'd be really interesting to see what you say with this. And like I said, the reality is there really isn't a right or wrong answer. It's all about knowing yourself well enough to help you get the best results. Okay, this is interesting. It's quite a wide spread here. So we've got 8% of you meditation and yoga is quite a common one. I think exercise is a real common one, especially over the last 12 months when it's been one of the luxury things we've actually been able to do, actually go out for our walks or our one a day bit of exercise. Listening to music works for some people. I'm definitely aware of that. Be interesting to hear what other people have said something else, because there's various different things that you can do. Again, it's just about knowing you. And for the 15% of you that say that you don't consciously focus on relaxing your mind, I would really recommend to make an effort to do that, because it really does help. And as a business owner, as someone who's working high up in a business, it's very, very difficult to constantly operate without giving your mind a chance to recharge. So I just think it's something to take on board. And even if you do something really, really small, where it's just you go into a different room and just don't think about anything for a little while, even if it's just for 10 minutes, it really will make a difference. I always used to remember when I used to go on holiday, it would be the time where I could actually completely switch off and relax. And I'd come back with so many ideas. Don't get me wrong, some of them weren't very good, but I'd come back so refreshed and full of energy with loads of ideas. And I think that's something else to bear in mind as well. Make time for yourself, make time for you, because it's so important. as a business owner, running a business, being high up in a business, you're under a lot of pressure. And I think making time for yourself is so, so important, especially nowadays where everything just seems to be 24/7. So for those of you not consciously focusing on relaxing your mind, really would recommend to do something to make a change there. So, like I said, mindset's a massive, massive area. It goes far and beyond what we'd be able to cover today. But I just hope that that's touched on a few of the key elements of developing that mind to make it as strong as possible so you can give yourself the best chance to achieve your business and personal goals. So I think we've got quite a few questions, I believe. So I think we're going to open the floor now to answer some of those questions. So if anyone's got any questions I haven't put in the chat box yet, feel free, pop some questions in the box, and yeah, we can hopefully give you some thoughts from our end on those.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, really insightful again. Particularly like the holiday and all your ideas, even if some of them are not good. And sometimes it's useful just to talk to somebody else to let you know that they're not that good, I think, before you start implementing them. So it's always good to have someone to go to have a sounding board as well. So yeah, there's quite a few questions coming through, but we'll ask as many as we have time for. So if you want to put any more in, please do. So the first one is, how do I start the transition from a fixed to a growth mindset in certain areas?
Okay, so I think the first thing to appreciate is that there's room for development. That's a big hurdle to come over. And next, I would look at sort of drilling deep to really understand where the beliefs come from, and how and why they're helping you. Chances are they're not. So then I think it's all about setting yourself mini goals and actions to start moving away from those beliefs. Because I think if you're telling yourself and you're really honest with yourself, like, I think this, but I know it actually isn't helping me, then I think you can start using that as a buffer to step away from it. For example, the next time you're faced with an obstacle, instead of giving up, check back to what we've looked at today and assess how giving up will affect you in the long run. You know it won't. So using your end vision to help fuel and persist for you to carry on, I think that's really important. We looked at it on the first webinar, having that real deep purpose that you're really passionate about, because I think you can always feed back to that and say, well, look, if I operate with these beliefs, if I give up when I'm faced with an obstacle, if I avoid a challenge, am I likely to fulfill my purpose? Am I likely to achieve my vision? Probably not, or not as quickly as you could. So I think it's feeding back to that and always having that in the back of your mind. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is a challenge and you will slip up from time to time. It's not going to be a case of clicking your fingers and you can change instantly. But I think small and often, little habits, and rewarding yourself for every time you do maybe reframe criticism, maybe every time you do embrace a challenge, doing something positive off the back of that, because you're developing yourself, you're improving. So I think accepting that, look, it's not going to change straight away, but over time, your default response to maybe give up will change to, I'm going to take this head on, I'm going to hit this head on. And you'll start feeling a lot more confident in your ability to do it on a regular basis as well. So that's what I would recommend, starting small and building up gradually. But also telling people about it. I think, Greg, you just touched on having someone to talk to. I think speaking up and talking to people, it's so important, because you don't feel as alone and you feel like you've got people on the journey with you. So I think there's some real key things I think you can do to start off with.
Great, thanks, Joe. So yeah, another one that's come through is, I've spent time working on my mindset, but I fall back into the old traps. What can I do to address this?
Okay, this is quite a good one, because it kind of follows on from what we were just mentioning in the last question, because I think accountability is key here. I think if you can make yourself accountable, great, but if you can tell other people who can hold you accountable, even better, because it's even less likely that you're going to fall back into those old traps. Practice again and accept that you're going to have failures along the way, but build up those habits. And habits are massively important when we're talking about mindset and a mental point of view. And what I've found is a good way to form them is to actually combine a habit alongside another habit. So let's say you wanted, for example, to start looking at meditation. You weren't currently doing anything to relax your mind, and you said, you know what, meditation appeals the most to me, I'm going to try that. What a lot of people would do is, right, I'm going to block a whole hour out to do meditation. Don't go that fast. Don't go that quickly. Start with something simple that you know you can achieve and it won't impact on your day significantly. Start with, say, 5 minutes and combine it with something else. So say, for example, something that you do every single day, brush your teeth, for example. combining habits in that. So before either side of brushing your teeth, because that's a consistent habit that you do every day at probably the same time, do 5 minutes meditation either side of that, because then you're blocking the habits together and you're making it much more likely you're going to stick to them, be consistent with them. So I think off the back of today, what I would encourage everyone to do is have a look at that and see if there's a positive habit they could start or a detrimental habit they could look to start breaking, and maybe seeing if there's a way that you could align that with other things that you do consistently, because it's all about sort of that sort of pre-prep to an extent. That look, every day when I brush my teeth, or every day when I make my lunch, or whatever it is, I'm going to do this alongside it or next to it, whatever that may be, because it will start blocking it together and it will just become second nature, and you'll be able to start doing it in autopilot. Another thing to consider is looking at course correction. So avoid the bad habits that just kick in automatically. I was reading the other day about Ariana Huffington, the owner of the Huffington Post, and she explained a great example of something she does, because I've done it in the past as well, where you just grab your phone and you automatically just randomly checking some of your apps or your news or whatever it is, and you just look back and I didn't really even need to do that. It's just so ingrained that I do it automatically. So what she does is she changes her app positions on her phone on a regular basis. So when she comes to do that, she has to stop and correct because she's not on the app that she automatically thought she would be on. So that's just a really simple example of things that you can do. And if, for example, another one I heard was about people that were getting out of the track or getting out of the habit of going to the gym and not taking their gym bag to work with them or whatever it was, they'd pack the gym bag the night before and leave it by the front door. So it was there as a constant reminder that you need to go to the gym today, or whatever it is, just try and look at that, the ways that your course will sort of go, the way that you will sort of go off course, and see if there's a way that you can force that course correction. So there's a couple of examples, but I'm sure you can probably think of many things that are more relevant to you. But that's another good way of avoiding those pitfalls and traps.
That's great advice, Joe. So one more is, how do I know which mindset tool is right for me?
Okay, this is another interesting question, because some of you may know yourself deeply enough to know, myself and Greg put a few simple options up on the poll earlier, but some of you may know exactly what will help you tick, and that's brilliant. But if you're not sure, my suggestion would just be to explore a few of the things that we've mentioned until you find something that clicks, because it's all about relaxing your mind, getting you into that state of just relaxed, so you can just think and just refresh yourself. You don't even really need to think. It's just about completely relaxing yourself and just feeling like you can then sort of recharge and retackle another challenge, because there's only so much you'll be able to do before you get what's called burnout, or however you want to frame it. And it's not sustainable to operate 100 miles an hour constantly. So you just need to find that thing. But I think meditation, yoga, physical exercise, going for a walk, I found that really helpful to me. Watching television, some TV programs might just relax you and just be like the TV program, you don't have to think, you just relax, chill out, listening to music. But like I said before, the main thing is that it's really personal to you and it makes you feel refreshed after doing it as often as possible. So test many things, just test them, try it, see it may be something that you actually try and you're like, wow, I didn't realize that yoga actually impacted me this way, or meditation, or just listening to certain types of music really helped reset my mind. So just test things, I would suggest, if you really don't know. But I'd like to think the majority of your gut feelings telling you to go in a certain direction.
Yeah, I think the music one is always good, because I'm sure everyone's got a go-to track that makes them feel uplifted and positive. It doesn't have to be classical music to relax, is it? But there'll be a song that just brings back happy memories and helps people relax. Another question that's come through is, any tips for reframing success of others as something that can benefit us rather than feeling insecure or threatened by it? This person says, I tend to use manifestation, the idea that there is enough success to be shared around, but they've always struggled in sharing that success.
Yeah, I think that point's a really good one. I think there is plenty of success around, because what we're talking about today, a lot of the stuff that we've said is people won't do it, or they might do it for a small amount of time, but they won't consistently do it. And that's what separates the great people from the good people. That's why there's only a finite amount really great businesses, really great business leaders out there, because they're willing to do the things that others won't consistently. And it's all about practice. So I think look at the successes of others and actually drill deeper into why they've become success. Actually get an understanding of the things they've done and put in place. And that will actually show you that a lot of it is down to hard work. It's not just a person woke up in the morning and they were a brilliant business owner, or they've created a multi-billion-pound business. A lot of it comes back to the passion. And I think if you spend a lot of time focusing on the passion and the purpose of what you're actually wanting to achieve, you won't feel threatened by success of others, because you'll realize you're on your own path. And as long as you're achieving what your true purpose is and your vision, success of others will actually just give you tips and give you things to learn from and actually develop your own business, as opposed to being an area of threat. That's the way I sort of look at it. I just feel that there is, like the person who asked the question pointed out, there is enough success to go around, because there's very few people who would do things that others are not willing to do. And because of that, success is there for the taking. But again, it's a step-by-step approach. It's not just going to happen overnight. So there's some thoughts from my perspective. Hopefully that helps in some way.
I think we've just got time for one last question. So how can I not let other people's mindset affect mine?
I really like this question. Yeah, I think this is a fantastic one. And it's really easy to just turn around and say, just avoid it. Just avoid those negative people, avoid those energy sappers. But in reality, it's much more difficult than that, isn't it? And what I would do is I would have a deep look at who you're associating with and who you're spending your time and energy with and on, and whether it's actually a good fit for who you are and who you want to be in the future. There's a common saying that you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And while it's unlikely to be as clear-cut as 5 people, there is a bit of truth in that. And I think it's worthwhile looking at people you do spend a lot of time with and seeing the true benefit of that association. Like we mentioned earlier, I think having that sounding board and having those people to help vet your ideas and listen to you, just be a listener at times, is really important. But I often find out when people are being negative, one of the things that I do is I actually ask questions to drill down the root cause of the frustration. Because a lot of the times when people are being negative, it's very easy to get into a confrontation or a tit-for-tat argument. But actually, if you just ask them a question and say, why are you being negative? What's the matter today? All of a sudden, it takes away quite a lot of that negative energy straight away. You just say, what's wrong? Because a lot of the time people are being negative because they want to be heard. And I think if you drill down to the root cause of that frustration, it often turns out that it's surface level frustration. It's down to something a lot more ingrained. And once you're aware of it, you can perhaps help them and they can then help you. So I think it's about trying to understand it from their point of view. But if it gets to a point where it's just like, I'm just feeling negative at any time I'm around you, you've got to ask yourself, well, what is the benefit of me still being associated with this person or still speaking about this particular topic with this person? Because the one thing that I'd hope we could get across today is just how precious your mind actually is. And you've only got a finite amount of energy that you can expend, and why would you want to expend it on people who are dragging you down, so to speak? So I think try to understand the person's mindset first, and if you're clearly not going to benefit from the association, just move away from it and be brutal. Say no and end the relationship completely. Because one of the big things that I've learned over the years is that the best business owners say no a lot more than the business owners who are just good or average. They're willing to say no because they know and they can draw a real clear line over what will benefit them and what won't. And that includes associations with other people. So like I said, your energy and your time and your mindset is also precious. You just can't afford for anyone to have a big influence on it in a negative way.
That's great, Joe. Thanks for that. So we're going to move on from questions now, just to sort of conclude the webinar. So yeah, as I mentioned at the beginning, it is an interactive program. So hopefully you've taken some notes throughout and learned some stuff as we've gone. Obviously, Joe does run the Interactive Accelerator program. So I'm just going to run a quick poll to find out if you'd like to find out a little bit more about that. So I'll just give you a few seconds to quite simply yes or no. And obviously, we've only covered a short topic today, but the Accelerator program goes into a lot more detail than we have the opportunity to do today. So I'm just going to let that run for a couple more seconds. Okay, thank you for everybody who's put your feedback in. So yeah, as Joe mentioned at the beginning, we're on the third webinar, which was Mindset today. There are 4 more to go, which is cash flow, systems and processes, profitability, and team and culture. We've got the dates of those on the screen for you now. So I'll give you a few seconds to jot those down if you wish. And then another quick poll to encourage you to sign up to the next one. So are you already signed up to the next webinars? Yes, no, but I'm going to sign up now. Okay. It's quite a positive one, so I'm going to share that one as well. So yes, most of you have signed up, but those that have not currently signed up, you are going to sign up now. So that's good to hear, and we'll see you on the next webinar. So we've also got some other webinars coming up over the next over this month. So how to deal with bullying and harassment, and coronavirus returning to work after lockdown. So if you're interested in those, please also sign up to those. If you haven't already joined our newsletter, then please do. The link is on the website, but you'll have a follow-up link with a follow-up email with a link on it as well. So please do sign up and keep up to date with our news and events that we're running. Obviously, we didn't have a lot of time today to ask lots of questions to Joe. So if you do have any other questions, then please drop them into inquiries at hrsolutions-uk.com, and we'll make sure that we get those to Joe, and he'll reach out to you directly. After the webinar, you will have that email, and again, it'll ask you for some feedback on today's webinar, so we can always look to improve and make sure you're getting the content that you like. That just leaves me to say thank you again to Joe. Another insightful session. Looking forward to the one next week. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you on the next webinar.
Thanks, everyone.